but I did want to talk about, obviously we're fall, we're in the more winter end of going in. Oops, hold on one sec. Oh, there we go. Okay. We're more obviously fall into winter. We're in winter now, literally, so we won't touch too much on fall unless you or anyone has any questions about the season of fall. I know we touched on it last time because we did late summer into fall. And so we touched on it a little bit, but mostly it was about late summer, all to do with the immune system and how we build the immune system. Everybody knows this who was here last time, because I don't think there's anybody that's going to be new seeing these recordings. Is that correct, Rebecca? You can just nod or thumbs up. Don't know. Okay. Well, they can read through this, but I think we'll blast through it if we only got 30 to 45 minutes. I really want to focus on the herbs today. I think we're going to go over 4 herbs, 2 kind of bonus herbs, but basically, again, it's all about why we should live in harmony with nature. We've known this for thousands of years. It's about embracing tonic herbs, and tonic herbalism is literally that system of living in harmony with nature, respecting the seasons of the earth, right, and how we rotate around the sun. And it's about trying to harmonize and live in accordance with nature. This is how we gain this eternal life, but this is how the natural order of things operates internally and externally. So it's all about forming that interconnected whole. Now, just as a quick, and I'll motor through these because they're all review, but again, tonic herbalism is literally about living in harmony with nature and natural substances. Taoist Tonic Herbalism is literally that promotion of health rather than the elimination of the disease. It's that preventative approach, right? Practiced for thousands of years. And it doesn't mean that you can't take tonic herbs in acute situations, but ideally it's emphasizing that preventative approach, right? That daily elixir approach, whether it's with herbal drafts or blender drink or however you want to consume these herbs, but it's about getting them in ahead of time, right? If you remember what I said before, taking little bits of herbs now to avoid big problems later, that's what we want to focus on. So seasonal attunement. So this is the schematic. So it seems like pretty in depth when you see these quotes. Like I always tell people that, hey, this is what produces diseases, the changes of the seasons. It's the junction of the seasons which produce these diseases in the body. Really, we don't have to freak out or worry about too much about it because the schematic has already been worked out for us. This is the 5-element theory, like I showed you guys last time. Last time we talked about late summer, moving into fall. Now we're going to talk a little bit about fall, just as it relates to the immune system, but moving into winter. Now, the season of winter is basically the beginning and the end of this cycle. It looks like the summer would be the beginning and end because it's at the top. But really, the summer represents our personality and how we interact in the world with each other. But it all starts with the winter moving up to the summer. And again, it's all an interconnected whole. So if there's anyone new that's going to watch this presentation that hasn't been to any of my trainings before, basically we divide this up into seasons and into organ systems, right? You can look up Chinese 5-element theory. What does it mean when it's an organ season? It means that in this 12-month span dictated by circadian biology, our cell structure is breaking down and rebuilding again. So when it's an organ season, right now we're in the season of the kidney bladders. It means that our kidney system is breaking down and rebuilding back again for the next 12 months ahead. So the time is now if you want to deal with any sort of kidney, urinary bladder thing, specifically related to adrenal health and stress. We're going to get into a big portion of that. That's the basis of what we're going to talk about today, how stress affects us, what stress is, et cetera, what we can do to combat it. But basically, it's stress that is the insidious nature that helps causes this system to break down. And whether you know it or not, we're all being inundated with stressors of all sorts. And we'll get into this going forward. But basically, this is the time of year, if you deal with any sort of issue, belly button down, that could be even ankle problems, knee problems. This is the time of year we want to address this because this is the time we can help rebuild the system better. Now, on the flip side of that, conversely, this is also the most delicate this system is throughout the whole year, right? So we want to do our best job focusing on the kidney, bladder, adrenal system to set us up for a successful 12 months ahead. Okay, and if there's any questions, we can go back to that. I know this is review. I'll briefly touch, I know we did, but I'll briefly touch on autumn. We just came out of it. What I like to say, so the seasons are marked, right, with the equinox and the solstice. But I say this time and time again, there's no straight lines in nature. Everything has a curved approach. So even though our weather has been dictated by winter type climate, if I'm saying that correctly, but temperatures and feeling of winter, we still can honor this autumn lung season, large intestine season, for still a few more weeks, right? There's a blending in it, blending between the two as we gracefully move through this cycle. There's no hard and fast rule. So we always want to keep in mind the season behind us when we're closer to that. And as we progress through the winter, we'll start to look at, the liver a little bit early before we enter into liver, if that makes sense to everybody. And again, if you have questions, you can let me know about that. So how do we facilitate living in harmony with this schematic, right? This comprehensive template? It's all through embracing that tonic herbal approach. And if you're unfamiliar with tonic herbs, just again, as a review, I think everybody has probably seen me say this ad nauseum by now, but tonic herbs are this superior echelon. When we look at all the herbs in Eastern and Western herbology, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them, the superior supertonic herbs are literally the herbs that have transcended to become an upper class, upper echelon, apex of this triangle, small group of herbs that basically function which no other herbs can or foods can. So they supersede the other herbs and foods that we know of in terms of their action. And basically it boils down to them passing these 6 criteria over thousands and thousands of years. Astragalus is a really interesting example because Astragalus has been used for about 2,000 years as a superior supertonic herb. But if you remember from my slides going forward, Taoist Tonic Herbalism has been practiced for 3,000 years. So still, Astragalus was thousands of years to get into this group. They had to be sure that it passed this criteria. The biggest one in here is can do no harm, right, in our today's day and age. So it means that these tonic herbs are very safe, ongoing. They should be consumed consistently. Doesn't mean every day in a pharmaceutical mindset approach. But embraced, and we'll get into that and how I suggest you do use them. But the big thing to know is they can be used for months and months, the whole season long. Any age group can do no harm, right? Plus promoting long life, enhancing us in a spiritual and emotional well-being standpoint, and nourishing one or more of the 3 treasures. Now, this is very important. Last time we didn't get to talk about the 3 treasures. When we talk about the winter, the 3 treasures matter big time. So we're going to go over that theory here in a second, and I won't keep you guys too long, bog you down with that too much. So if there's any follow-ups to that, you can just reach out at any time to me. So I believe these slides were in our presentation last time in September, but just to go over it quickly again, the season of autumn, right? So we went from the lung season, fall, now into winter, right? On the 21st, into winter. But again, no straight lines in nature. So we're still going to see lung season things come up for a few weeks for sure with people. And this is the basis of our immune system, which we'll get to going ahead. And I will slow down once we get to the more pertinent slides for today's talk. But again, just kind of motoring through these. The season of autumn, if you remember, we talked about late summer last time. I mentioned that this is a good slide to write down, to take a photo of, and to, memorize these bullet points, because these easy cues really help progress your knowledge and how you use these tonic herbs. So when we know that something is a tonic herb that deals with the lungs, we know, hey, that, 8 or 9 times out of 10, someone taking these herbs at this time of year is going to help their lungs, which is going to help maybe another symptom that they're coming in for. Because as it goes, and it's always amazing, but like I said, 8 to 9 times out of 10, someone comes in with an issue during a specific season. We can usually break it down to something off or diseased within that seasonal approach. So basically they might be coming in for a weak immune system, but we know that it's their lungs that need the help. It really is apparent when we talk about the winter. Like I said before, someone's coming in aching of sore knee. Oh, it's just the cold weather making my knee sore, when we really know that that's actually tied deeply to the kidneys and to the jing, which I'll get to in 1 second. But to go over this, we see that the fall season was lung, large intestines. So we can't forget about the paired organ system. So large intestines means, good digestion and elimination. When we have good elimination, it takes the burden off our lungs. Most people aren't aware, like when we talk about cleansing and detoxing, most people are not aware that 70% of the toxins that we detoxify come from our lungs, not our large intestines. The lungs are the main detoxification organ of the system, detoxing all those metabolites, toxins out, which is a good case why, all the mask wearing people have been exposed to the last couple of years could have been harmful. I'm not here to debate that at all. I'm just saying our lungs are trying to get rid of toxins, so we need to facilitate that as much as possible. Also, though, when we focus on the large intestines, and this system is notorious for bogging down very easily, right? Gets sticky, gets congested. This is going to be responsible for the remainder of the toxins in the body with the bladder system, obviously, but taking the burden off the lungs by promoting the health of the intestines is really going to do benefits for your immune system, is where I'm going with that. So big thing to know is the associated tissues of the lungs in the fall are the skin, mucous membranes, lymphatic system. Don't have too much time to go into this, but we can know that it's about our orifices and our pores in our body. So the lungs, when you have strong lungs, it means that we have protected nose, mouth, ears, and system. Our skin system, pores are going to be tight and strong, and means our lymphatic system in those areas are strong. So they're going to deal with any sort of external pathogen coming into the body. Okay. So some important tonifying qualities, we look at the color of white. So again, this could be white foods, white herbs, going to be beneficial at tonifying the lung system, pungent, sour foods. And, basically the energy starts to become more drying, but more descending, right? We're making that turn where energy is starting to concentrate deep inside the core. And so even though we have a little bit better digestion now than we do in late summer, it's really helping us prepare for winter, where we have the strongest digestion of the year. And we'll get into that in 1 second. But basically why this is important to know and mention, even though we're out of the fall, is this concept we talked about last time, which is the Wai Qi. Now, the Wai Qi literally is this immune force field, right? The Chinese have been talking about this for thousands of years. We now know through science that what they're talking about is something called the SALT, or the skin-associated lymphatic tissue. So when I was talking about the pore system, right? The pores of the body, our skin regulating those pores, helping block external pathogens from coming in and from entering the body. What they're talking about is basically facets or areas of our lymphatic system, right? And we have lymph nodes throughout the whole body, right? We have a bunch in our intestines, right? The mesenteric lymph nodes, they're very important as well. But when we're talking about the contagious pathogens, affecting us in public right now at this time of year, especially, it's all about this external Wai Qi. And it's a 1, 2, 3 approach to make sure that this force field, or this lymphatic portion of our body, is strong. So as you may remember, I mentioned before on our last talk, we were talking about late summer, how it's the beginning phase of building this strong public protective field, basically, around us. It's number 1, late summer. Excuse me, pardon me. Number 2, fall, autumn, the lungs. So it goes from late summer, spleen system, stomach, right? Digestion, leading to our lungs. The third step in this process of really ensuring this Wai Qi, also known as the protective Qi, is our kidney system. So the winter, that 1, 2, 3, successfully navigating this sets us up for this really strong protective Qi for the whole year, leading us to the next year that we can start to rebuild this and strengthen this again. So the kidneys, how they come into play is they supply this active force behind the Wai Qi. So they're what help emanate, actually this one's better, emanate this force field, if you think about it from an energetic standpoint. Now, basically the 1, 2 step here, I showed this last time, but it's the food that we eat, right? Late summer, it's the food that we eat mixed with the air that we breathe, coming together to create this Wai Qi that is then pushed throughout the body by the adrenal kidney system. It's that yang force that helps it emanate and push out, right? It's going to help push our lymphatic system, right? We need that energetic push, so to speak, in that system to keep it strong, to keep it healthy, to keep it clear, and to keep it ready for whatever comes at it. So again, food we eat, the air that we breathe comes together and then is disseminated throughout the body by the kidney or the Jing energy, the kidney system. Now, if there's no questions on that, I will jump into winter. And I know that that was a big download or a quick download on this. And I'll take these a little bit slower because technically, or literally, I should say, this is the season that we're in right now, the kidney adrenal bladder system season, excuse me. Now, they talk about it as the kidney season. I definitely think it's easier for people to understand what they're getting at when we talk about it from a Western standpoint of adrenal health. Because the adrenals are what, I'll just flip back here. Hopefully not get anyone dizzy flipping all these slides, but the adrenal system, right? That energetic force. They believe that the Chinese Taoist Tonic Herbalism believe that between the adrenal glands, there's basically a circulating energy, right? A negative and a positive, just like a battery. There's a force field. And little bits of this Jing energy drop in there and explode basically with energy to help emanate and push the qi, right? That explosion of energy is called qi throughout the body. Not to get too deep on it, but it's pretty fascinating. So again, you might not think, oh, I don't have a problem with my kidneys. I don't have a problem with my bladder. Basically, I shouldn't say basically, the stat is 80%, but have some level of an adrenal disharmony going on when we look at today's modern now 2023 lifestyle. But the season of winter, kidney season, also though, like I'm saying, adrenal season, okay? So seasonal organs, kidney, adrenal, bladder, anything to do with water in the body, fluids, blood, urine, interstitial fluid, all that stuff has to do with this season of the year. So you can keep that in mind. Associated senses, ears and hearing, very heightened. Take a walk in the winter, go outside, and you can hear, so well. Everything is so crisp, clean, and apparent. And so it's really the season of calming what we like are listening to calming things, but also tonifying that through our ears. So when we tonify and we listen to pleasurable things, and that could be subjective on what that is to you, that is going to help our adrenals. I'm sure everybody probably knows someone that, can't take much noise, especially you'll see this in elderly people because they get older, their adrenals start to weaken, their Jing starts to weaken. And I will define Jing here in a second, but they get really agitated or can't handle it. Basically it's because this is a direct connection relationship to the adrenal glands. So when this hearing is affected, it can adversely affect our adrenal system. And then again, the flip side, tonifying that through pleasurable sound will help the adrenals. So walking in the winter and listening to those sounds is very tonifying to this system and can help anything, like I said, from belly button down. Just give me some tea here. Like I mentioned before, body fluids, right? Any sort of body fluids are related, associated. The bones, bone marrow. This is the time, again, to build the immune system and that deep energy reserves of the bone marrow. This is the season where the emotion is fear. So dealing with any sort of fear, fright, or stress are number one at this time of year. So you might be more fearful, but this is the time to get over those fears and frights and really handle or work on handling stress. And we'll get into what we can do to help that going forward. One of the biggest things to know is the color. Check time here. Biggest things to know is the color of black, right? So black herbs, black food, black clothing. These things help tonify the adrenals at this time of year. The taste of the foods would be salty. So we're thinking mineral rich. We want salty, mineral rich, broths and foods. Slight sweetness. And I actually had that on here. I must have deleted it, but also slightly bitter, not too bitter and definitely not overly bitter, but it's going to help the energy kind of cool the skin and move down deep into our digestive center to give us strong digestion. So this also should say descending as well for energy, but dispersing aromatic, very important. So we want that to be down descended, foods that help push. So again, we're thinking like the same as fall, where pumpkin pie spices are very good, being aromatic and dispersing. We can think about how a lot of traditional recipes would have salted, cured meats, but would also be flavored with, unusual spices to our palate. We can think of Ayurveda. So again, the pumpkin pie spices like cardamom, caraway, those types of things, really powerful to cinnamon even as well, really powerful to get those types of food in the diet. Again, we want to talk about good digestion and elimination, still very important. We want denser yet easy to digest foods. Now, there's kind of a misconception on how meat is to digest because it's a very dense food. Yet, we maybe have been led astray that meat is actually a lot easier to digest when it's consumed alone or very small amounts, but consistently. We can get into that after if anyone has questions on that. But basically, think dense yet easy to digest foods. Roasted nuts, or a lot of people would want to soak them, but you should really roast them or heat them at this time of year. Those are dense foods, easier to digest for some people. Salty foods, less foods in general, and eating with the sun cycle, very beneficial. This is also very hard in our culture, but it would mean that you finish eating at sunset, which was like 4:30 or 4 o'clock or whatever. And it's still really early. Sunset tonight is 4:44. Just checking my phone. I have a app on there. So really, we should ideally be done eating by that time. And our strongest digestion is when the sun is highest in the day. Drier, less damp foods, right? So we're turning into getting ready for that spring season where we want to start ridding the body of this dampness. So cooking our foods, less and less as we go through the season, but right now you can still cook them quite a bit to make them easy to digest. So if there's no questions on that, if you do, you can just pipe in at any time, totally. But again, these are kind of the bullet points. Now, the biggest thing that I can teach or explain it for this season is this concept of Jing. You've heard me talk about it a few times. And if you've seen me talk about this before, this will be a review for you. But there's something called the 3 treasures in tonic herbalism. You'll find this in Chinese medicine as well. If we look at seasonal attunement, living in harmony with the seasons, that's how our body relates to the external environment. The 3 treasures are basically an internal approach on how our organs and our systems communicate. So it's an internal communication process of energies in the body. Those 3 treasures are Jing, Qi, and Shen. We don't have time to get into them all, but basically Jing is the foundation of those energies. Qi, most people are familiar with Qi in the West, right? It's that energy flow. And Shen is another way you can talk about our soul, our personality, really the character that makes us who we are. The easiest way to understand this is to look at the candle analogy. So when we look at a candle, the Jing of a candle would be the wax and the wick. So without Jing, without the wax and wick of a candle, there would be no candle, right? There can be a flame, but no candle, so to speak. So when we look at a candle, we need a wax and wick for that candle. This is basically, in a nutshell, the Jing is our life energy reserve. It's the battery of the system, but it's our energy reserve. It gets deeper into our DNA going forward, and I have a slide coming up on that. But this is an energy that is predetermined upon time of conception, and then also how we live our life. So if you think about a candle burning down, when there's no more wax and wick to that candle, the candle's done, the party's over, right? And such is our life. When we're out of this Jing energy, we cease to exist, right? So if you burn through your Jing quick, if you burn your candle and don't manage this candle correctly throughout our life, right? Don't manage your deep energy reserves, you will live your life quicker, or you will expire quicker than you probably should. The Chinese believe that we're born with about 120 years of Jing energy by nature. And there's been stories, whether they're true or not, I'm not here to debate it, but you can look back in literature and text where they talk about certain people living hundreds and hundreds of years. Pretty fascinating. And some of them have some solid evidence to back their claims up. But that's neither here nor there. But my point is they're able to build their Jing energy throughout their life to extend that lifespan, to layer up the candle, okay? Quickly, I'll mention that the Qi of the candle would be the actual flame, and the Shen would be the heat emanating from the candle, right? So the whole point of a candle is to get heat, right? Light and heat, and that's coming with the Shen. So again, this is our personality and how we interact in the world. Someone with a really strong Shen is usually happy, light, easygoing, easy to get along with, right? They have a very balanced personality. That's someone with a strong Shen. Any sort of Shen disturbance would be any sort of mental illness, like schizophrenia, even anxiety, panic. They're all, and they can be different degrees, obviously, of Shen disturbances, fear, nervousness. And I think we all have elements of that. Like, unless you're a Buddhist monk living in meditation, you're going to have some sort of Shen disturbance. But basically, this whole candle and these three energies are all relating and working together to give us this nice, even Shen. And this Shen is important in the season of the summer. And I believe we do have a training booked in June. So at that time, we will talk about this. The fall time and the springtime are more about the qi, the lungs and the liver. But right now we're talking about the Jing, and it all starts with the Jing. So if we want to build a successful candle to live a long, healthy life, right, to build that Jing energy, now is the time of year. Doesn't mean you can't do it at other times of the year, like I always say, but now is the time we need to be focusing on our Jing. And we're catching this really early into the winter season. So we're at a really good time to do this. Now, Jing by nature is a black, pure substance. So this is where that color comes in. So when we look at herbs that are black, by nature of that color, they are going to support and build Jing. Something too to relate to this, or to expand on this, I should say, is black is also can be viewed as very, very dark colors. So this can even translate into dark, dried purple berries, which is why we carry a large selection of purple dark berries. Those are all very Jing building and very appropriate. Where's my cursor? Very appropriate to consume these dried dark berries in the wintertime, because we don't want this fresh fruit, right? That's not what Mother Nature is giving us. We have dried, prepared fruits, and the black in nature are going to help. The cursor keeps disappearing. Black in nature is going to help tonify that adrenal system. So like I said before, this Jing energy is fundamental to life. It is our DNA. It's our genetics, the deepest source of energy in the body. Again, like I said, our life battery, the reserves of our life force. Your Jing is your adrenal energy. And I'm going to throw these terms out, adrenal energy and adrenal fatigue, going forward. I will say as a side note that adrenal fatigue, for example, is not it's a debated, recognized medical term. And you'll see people say, oh, it's impossible to have adrenal fatigue because the adrenals themselves can't be tired. What I say to that is true, but we're talking about it from an energetic standpoint, the same way the ancients have talked about it for thousands of years, okay? So Jing by nature gives us calmness, allows us to focus. It helps balance the life, gives us, like I said, longevity, even relates to muscle tension. It's how we pass on our DNA. So upon conception, parents donate Jing energy. So the act of having sex, especially male ejaculation, is a huge Jing depleter, because we're actually giving that essence up. We're giving our essence up, our Jing energy. We're drawing from those deep life forces. So this is why you'll see in here, or I might not have it in this. I have a whole class I've taught somewhere on Jing energy, but you see being reckless, sexually reckless is not a wise thing to do, and it depletes our Jing rapidly. We can get more into that too if anyone wants to talk about it, but basically Jing is responsible for regeneration, longevity, youthfulness, deep long-term vitality, mental clarity, energy, our reproductive health. So you'll see this a big one. So this also relates to conception, fertility, right? Our reproductive health, our source of vigor, our libido, all related to our Jing energy. So if you have no libido, it's showing you that you have, Jing loss or not a strong reserve of Jing, right? If you don't have that vigor, you don't have that pep in your step, you'd want to help build that Jing back. Problems conceiving or any sort of menstrual imbalance, or male impotence or anything like that, all related to that Jing energy. Very, very important and very rampant in today's society, which I'll show you coming up ahead in another slide. Also related, like I said, anything belly button below, Jing energy is directly related to. So knees, ankle, kidney function in general, bladder function, skeletal system, because again, it mirrors the kidneys and adrenal function, our sensory functions, especially our ability to hear. If you remember the kidneys, right? So Jing, and actually, if I didn't say that, forgive me, but I should have. But the Jing, I think I did go over this. The Jing resides in the kidneys, right? Like I said, but between the two adrenals. So that function of Jing is related to our ability to hear because of the kidney system. Also believed to govern our courage and the power behind our will. This can be also translated as our vigor for life, right? Vigor is not only our libido. This can be our will, our courage, our strength, our stamina, all related to our Jing. Very, very important. Now, Jing is also responsible for governing all water in the body, right? Kidney system, water, so body fluids. Also relates to blood sugar. So when you think of diabetes, insulin resistance, syndrome X, all these things, metabolic syndrome, hormones in the body, all related to our Jing energy and kidney system. Now, these are extremely important because they're rampant in society, these types of imbalances. Now, symptoms of Jing imbalance and loss. So again, you might not think you have a problem with your kidney system, but the interesting thing is we see an exact mirroring of symptoms of adrenal fatigue. So when we look at and I think the next slide, there's 75 common symptoms associated with adrenal fatigue. And I believe this list has grown, but they mirror each other. So back pain, lower back pain, weakness in knees, ankles, fatigue, wired but tired, sleep issues, poor memory, hair loss, gray hair, hormonal imbalance, infertility, like I mentioned, loss of vigor, anxiety, depression, poor hearing, weak immune system, this is the easy one, right? If you do have a UTI, kidney troubles, urinary troubles, right? It's showing you have a Jing imbalance, which again, exactly mirrors the adrenal fatigue, right? These ones, you see anxiety, panic attacks, foggy thinking. There's somewhere on here, it'll talk about depression. But anyway, you guys can read through these in the recording. That wired but tired, right? You can't sleep, low sex drive, problems with blood pressure, thyroid, right? This is going to be a water thing that's related to, depression right here. Hair falling out. I didn't get the memo in time, I guess, just kidding. But basically we can just think about that. And it's an easy way to understand it. Adrenals, fatigue, Jing, loss. So any of these symptoms are going to be helped or corrected or rebuilt with something that focuses on Jing. Now, the number one thing that's affecting our Jing energy in our society, without a doubt, in my opinion, I mean, arguably I have here, but is stress. Stressors can come in all shapes and sizes. I'll go through that quickly here, but we see there's some people that estimate up to 80% of the population is affected by adrenal fatigue. It's literally become this silent epidemic, right? It's the stress disease. So again, modern medicine might not say adrenal fatigue is a real thing. Talk to anybody who's dealt with any of these symptoms, and they're usually not isolated symptoms. You'll usually have several, if not a whole bunch. Anyone who's dealing with any of these, talk to them and tell them it's not real. There's definitely something going on here, even though the adrenal glands technically can't themselves get tired. There's an imbalance or a disharmony within that system. Now, why this is such a huge thing too, and why I like to really drill this home about stress, about Jing, is we're starting to learn this through modern science, even though, we know at least I believe, I'll talk for myself, energy is a thing, right? Thoughts are things, so to speak. We see that this was actually a study done at the U of C in Calgary here, which is amazing, but found that stress can be contagious, which is like, what? It's crazy. So they basically took mice, stressed some mice out. They had certain criteria markers to show those mice were stressed, introduced them back into the population, and that energy, that stressed energy, affected the rest of the population. It spread like wildfire. So this is why it's important to, be careful on who you hang around, watch your thoughts, but literally being around that energy of stress, right, affected people and was contagious. Or mice, it was mice, but still, I think we all can probably relate that if you're around someone that's just like really that beta wave, like freaking out, it can get to a point where you want to distance yourself away. If they're too stressed out, you want to avoid that because it's starting to affect you. This is what they're talking about in this study. Really fascinating. But anyway, moving forward, stress is hard to avoid, right? We have the two main types are productive stress, which is hormesis. We won't get into this too much, but hormesis is amazing. This is things like sauna, cold showers, heat exposure, all these things. Hormesis is a productive stress, and it is stress, but it's beneficial, right? We want to not overdo hormesis if we have a lot of unproductive stress. And this is this type of stress we're talking about that's contagious, that's very affecting, that's highly affecting our Jing energy, our kidney system. Whoops, other way. And this unproductive stress can be physical stress, psychological stress, psychosocial stress, psychospiritual stress, right? These numerous stressors all affect our adrenal fatigue, or our adrenal, excuse me. But our Jing energy is the better way to put it, right? We see things like EMFs, we can't avoid that, Wi-Fi's, all these things, right? This is the ubiquitous nowadays, insidious things like the EMFs, the radiation that we're being exposed to, right? Everyone knows them. There's work stress, or that psychological stress, emotional, or that perceived stress. But all these things add up to deplete our Jing. So this is why, even though we're born, what they say is 120 years of Jing energy, now just from the act of living in today's society, that Jing starts to get depleted, right? That candle starts burning quicker than it should because of all of these things that we are exposed to in 2023. So how do we avoid being affected by these things? And it is hard, but what I'm here to teach and explain, or to share with everybody, are some herbs, and embracing tonic herbalism, some herbs that we can utilize to help build our Jing and give us, our best lives ever, and basically help build this energy reserve back, helping alleviate all these, 75 plus symptoms. So first one I want to talk about, there's no questions so far. It doesn't look like it. I didn't pull the chat thing up. Maybe I should now. Yeah, no questions in the chat. I think we have about 10 minutes left. Yeah, just under 10 minutes, but we can go through these. And if there's any follow-up questions, you guys can let me know. But we want to talk specifically, first off, Shou Wu. This is the #1 Jing building herb, without a doubt. This is the gold standard of Jing energy builders, is Shou Wu. So a lot of people don't fully understand Shou Wu, can be scared about it. You'll read on the internet that Shou Wu can be harmful to the liver. Shou Wu is actually a traditionally prepared and cured version of this herb, also known as faux tea. So when we read about the side effects of Shou Wu, they have that erroneously confused with faux tea, which is a medicinal herb, not a tonic herb. The Chinese are the master of alchemists, and they figured out that if you can cure the faux tea root in a mixture of, it's like wine and black bean sauce, over hours, there's now a chemical process. It removes all the side effects of faux tea and changes that faux tea into something called Shou Wu, or Shou Wu. So this is a massive Jing tonic. It goes from this medicinal herb that's like a laxative detox liver herb that's hard on the system, to an amazing herb, Shou Wu, that is the massive Jing builder for the body, associated with the liver and kidneys. So even though, again, you'll read erroneously on the internet, it can be hard on the liver, that is not the correct form of this herb. When we have Shou Wu, traditionally like black cured Shou Wu, it's very protective and beneficial as a liver tonic. So Shou Wu is the quintessential Jing tonic. It has this tremendous ability to concentrate qi in its roots, so much so that it compresses this qi down back into Jing energy. So it's pure Jing energy. So the Shou Wu that we get is actually a 4-year-old plant that's allowed to accumulate this Jing over time, right? And then cured. Now, this concentration of Jing, right, is an energetic standpoint, or an energetic attribute. We know from science there's some amazing things. So again, Jing is longevity, life, batteries, deep life reserves. We can look to certain molecules like a stilbene glycoside that's in Shou Wu, also dubbed the Shou Wu super glycoside. Now, this molecule, again, it's going to be a symphony of molecules, but something that's interesting is they found that this is similar to resveratrol, yet much more powerful in antioxidant activity. So it's a very powerful form, or similar form as resveratrol. You find about a teaspoon of Shou Wu is something like 63 or 68 glasses of red wine equivalent for resveratrol. And I might even be understating that. It might be even less. It's very, very powerful, but it's hundreds of times more powerful in its antioxidant effects. Now, this is one reason they think that they see in studies where Shou Wu, even a 0.5% decoction, so this is a very light tea, right? A boiled tea of Shou Wu, was able to prolong the lifespan of fruit flies by 12%. And like I always say, you look at this, you're like, oh, 12% extra life. you'd be a big whoop. But when you extrapolate this data to an 80-year-old human, right, living average 80 years, that's almost 10 more years of life just by consuming this 0.5 decoction. So you're getting another decade of lifespan, right? It's enhancing longevity. So that is a substantial improvement on lifespan, right? All from consuming this Jing-rich herb. Now, Shou Wu has a wide range, like I said, of benefits of the liver, also Jing, but this is the go-to herb at this time of year. Anyone that's got sore knees, sore lower back, reproductive issues, ankle problems, foot problems, bone problems, teeth problems, right? We want to build that Jing. So again, when you think about the attributes of Jing, right? Vigor, like I said, reproductive health, libido, all that stuff, we want to focus on Shou Wu. Now, this is the time of year to get Shou Wu in, taken throughout the spring as well, because it's a massive liver tonic as well. But this is going to supercharge the body. It's known, like Shou Wu translate to Mr. Ho's black hair. That's what that translates into. Goes back to the story about Mr. Ho's the one that figured out Shou Wu, curing the root, consuming it. He was like an old, withered old man, you know, gray hair. It turned his hair black again, and he ended up fathering like 13 children, never had kids in his life. It's a really interesting folklore story. But again, they've known this for thousands of years, the activity and the powerful nature of Shou Wu. So we can see here, supports the adrenal glands, right? Builds that Jing, nourishes and builds blood. It's an excellent blood tonic. Helps liver function, helps the immune system, right? It's going to help push that yang force to help push the immune system, our lymphatic system throughout the body. This cellular integrity enhances longevity, right? Is what we see here, like with the fruit flies. We also know that it protects every cell. So this super glycoside, the still being glycoside, protects every cell in the body except our somatic cells. So except our eggs and sperm, every other cell can get protection from Shou Wu. It's high in zinc. Reverses gray hair, like I said. I know my colleague Sasha that works with me, she's like a huge fan of Shou Wu just for helping nourish hair in general, not just reversing gray hair. So this is, we don't have time to get into it, but it's a yin Jing. So it's really good from that feminine aspect. So it's a libido tonic that's not yang, that's not masculine. So for that vigor, where it's not like your red ginseng, which is like super libido, it's going to nourish. So lower back and lower knees. I know we got 1 minute left, so I'm just going to blast through this. One thing I want to say here is reishi mushroom. Amazing herb. This is the time of year for reishi mushroom spores. If we look at what a reishi mushroom spore is, right? If you can imagine, there's pores on the bottom of these reishi mushrooms. When it's about to reproduce, it sporulates. It lets go of these spores. These spores are basically the sperm cell of reishi mushroom. What does that mean? It is the pure Jing essence. They're black in nature. They're pure Jing energy. So when you talk about adrenal fatigue or especially stress, you know, people take reishi mushroom to get you out of your head, into your heart, to get you de-stressed. Reishi mushroom spores is the Cadillac approach. Now, seems more expensive per bag because it is, but it's so much more profound. It's about 70 to 100 times more potent than reishi mushroom, especially for adrenal fatigue and stress. It is like my go-to, something I consume all the time, are reishi mushroom spores, because they are very anti-stress, right? 1 to 2 hours after consumption, we see that harmonizing of brainwave function, getting us out of our head, back into that alpha state brainwave, and really, really helping ground us and calm us. Also rich in something called nucleic acids, which deals with the sleep cycle in our brain. So it helps us get that restful sleep as well. So it's something I'll take even before bed a lot of the times. But if I have any sort of talk or something to do that's high stress, I'm always using reishi mushroom spores without a doubt. Astragalus, we're out of time. I'll just blast through these. If you need to leave, by all means, leave. I'll just blast through these in 1 minute each. That's cool with everybody. But Astragalus, another one, is one of the most important herbs. This is a fall season herb, but since we're still addressing fall right now, something I suggest you highly get into the body and to the diet going forward. This is the quintessential public protective immune herb. Some people say this is the most important herb you can consume on the planet for a whole host of benefits, and you can read through this later, or I can send you guys the training guide on this. But Astragalus is helping keep our orifices, our pores closed and fortified to help protect us from public pathogens. It is the number one, right? So when we talk about a successful immune approach at this time of year, Shou Wu and Astragalus. The other one that I would add into that, which I do, is Elderberry. Now, I had a mistake. I forgot to send the final form to Kayla to get this listed in time for the training. I'll be doing that today. I can't remember if you guys got samples last time of Elderberry. If you didn't, or if you'd like another round, we can throw that in as the samples this time for sure. But this is an elderberry pulp powder that we have. So it's no seeds. It's pure freeze-dried pulp. The closest you can get to fresh elderberry. This is the quintessential flu fighter. Okay, so elderberry. So when we're using them in conjunction with, Astragalus, Cordyceps, elderberry, really classic and powerful combo for immune health at this time of year. Now, elderberry, known as the flu fighter, we see it addresses a whole host of viral flu forms. So A, B, HIV, herpes virus, goes on and on and on. It has a compound called antivirin in it that actually helps destroy and denature the spike protein of viruses. I do not know if this will work for COVID. You cannot find that type of info out there right now in terms of spike proteins. There's no way you can find reliable sources on all that. But we've known for years and years and years that it has this affinity to do this for other viruses, and that's good enough for me. So it is the flu fighter. It's the one you want to go to, right? Again, being a dark black pigmented berry, very appropriate this time of year to build that Jing energy as well. So we find elderberry really good for the nerves, cardiovascular system, adrenal Jing building, and again, keeping our immune system strong. Now, you can use this preventatively. At the very least, 12 to 24 hours, up to 48 hours after you feel your first symptoms, but preventatively is the best approach, right? Consuming a little bit each day in combination with your Astragalus. And then if you wanted to really top it off, would be, as a bonus, would be Cordyceps and turkey tail in there. Both Jing tonics, both lung tonics, and very, very enhancing immune tonics. So I'll flip back. Does anyone have any questions? I know I kept you a little bit too late, but any questions about anything? I know we blew through these. Maybe when I send these samples out, I'll send copies of the training guides for anyone. I'll have the chat open here if anyone wants to ask anything. But really, this is the herbs that I recommend are the best at this time of year. Number one being Shou Wu as general maintenance, and then also helping immune, adrenals, right? Stress, and then getting into deeper immune function with the Astragalus, elderberry, Cordyceps, turkey tail. Yeah, I don't think there's any questions. Thanks everybody for coming. This will be available again. We have another training booked. I think it's not till March, but please reach out anytime. I hope everybody's still on and saw that. I wasn't talking to ethers, but that's okay if so. I do have this recorded. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Kelly. Yeah, so everyone, I hope you have a good day, but honestly, reach out anytime. I'll follow up with what samples. I want to see what you guys got last time, and we'll choose something different. I'm thinking we'll do elderberry, astragalus, maybe cordyceps, or maybe reishi spores, or whatever. You guys can send me your input, but we'll maybe have some few choices, and we'll get those dialed up for everybody. So thanks again, guys. Hope to see y'all soon. Take care.
Thanks, Derek.
Yeah, thank you. See you later.